In the early days following Russia's February 2022 full-scale invasion of Ukraine, Russian citizens protested the war in various creative ways. Among them was memorial member and carpenter Stanislav Karmakskik. In a demonstration in Tomsk, he held up a 150-year-old painting produced during an earlier period of Russian imperial expansion. Karmakskik's protest and eventual arrest serve as a reminder that anti-war activism in Russia has deep roots, and that art can inspire solidarity across time and space against militaristic delusions of grandeur. The painting that Karmakskik held up, The Apotheosis of War, now hangs in Moscow's Tretyakov Gallery. It was created by Vasili Vereshchagin in 1871, part of a series of paintings that drew from his service as a war artist in Russian military campaigns to conquer and supposedly civilize Central Asia in the late 1860s. Russia's wars in the territories of modern Uzbekistan and the Kyrgyz Republic involved close-quarter fighting and extreme violence, often calculated to terrorize the enemy. The Turkestan series reflected Vereshchagin's first-hand experiences and observations. He used sketches and a variety of weapons, military uniforms, and local costumes collected during his travels to produce detailed, realistic representations of action in his studio. Vereshchagin worked in the popular genre of battle painting, which reached the height of popularity at the end of the 19th century. In Vereshchagin's time, painters were like today's rock stars, taking their works on tours that would attract hundreds of thousands of visitors, as well as broad coverage from journalists and art critics. In the series, besides the pictures of Uzbek and Kyrgyz people and warriors, and paintings of military actions, there was a more intimate painting of the cost of war. Forgotten, painted in 1871, showed a single dead Russian soldier, rifle to his side, with several crows standing around him and more circling overhead. This painting caused a scandal in 1874 when Russian Emperor Alexander II visited Vereshchagin's solo show in St. Petersburg. Confronted by Forgotten, the Tsar is reported to have stated, with extreme displeasure, "In my army, such incidents cannot and could not happen." Vereshchagin acknowledged that he had painted the scene from imagination and not from direct witness. He was fully aware that the emperor could, at a whim, destroy his career, and so he burned his own painting. Only photographs survive, and they too were banned from public display for 20 years. Though destroyed, Forgotten left traces. Vereshchagin himself kept returning to the core visual. In an 1889 touring exhibition in the United States, a catalogue from the Philadelphia stop lists the original painting as item 130 with the cryptic note for visitors that the original picture was destroyed by the artist. Also in the same catalogue, item 71 was a newer painting, A Forgotten Soldier. Again, carrion birds circle above a dead soldier at the bottom of the frame. But the artist has ensured he could face no criticism from the Russian Tsar this time. The Forgotten Soldier here wears the red uniform distinctive to the British Army of the time. The 1871 original painting was also seen and felt by other artists, inspiring them on different imaginative journeys in music and fiction. Composer Modest Mussorgsky dedicated his 1874 song Forgotten to Vereshchagin. The song begins by lamenting the soldier who was part of a victorious campaign, but lies now abandoned on the battlefield. The song's focus then zooms in on the feasting crow and reflects the disturbing realism that Vereshchagin was known for. The song then takes leave of the painting and imagines the dead soldier's wife back in the homeland, feeding their son and assuring him that his father is coming home soon, but he, forsaken, lies alone. Another visitor to the St. Petersburg show was Vsevolod Garshin, an intense young writer. His poem, at Vereshchagin's first show, reflects the strong impression that his experience at the exhibition made. I saw death and heard the howls of men, worn out by killing and by endless deprivation. Like the Tsar, Garshin sees Vereshchagin's reproach to the government and leadership that sent soldiers to their deaths far from their homes. Garshin's impassioned poem, with its outraged cry, "You betrayed them, mother," expresses his deep sense of sympathy for the foot soldiers of empire, recruited from Russia's peasants and artisans. Like many intellectuals and artists of the time, including Vereshchagin, Garshin used his privileged rank to connect with and speak for the common man. When Russia went to war against the Ottoman Empire in 1877, Garshin enlisted. He was wounded in action in the summer of 1877 and drew from his own experience and that of other soldiers to write the short story 4 Days. The story is told by a Russian soldier shot and left for dead on the battlefield alongside an Ottoman infantryman whom he killed. As the narrator grapples with increasing pain, thirst, and hunger, his interior monologue ranges far. He remembers witnessing a dog dying on a Russian city street and reproaches himself for his callousness at the time. He thinks of his own mother and sweetheart back in Russia. And as the body of the Turkish soldier begins to decompose in the heat, he expresses compassion. This ordinary conscript, he recognizes, is just as human as he is. He did not choose this war or his fate. And as in Mussorgsky's lyrics, Garshin's prose takes us a long distance from the battlefield, imagining the thread that joins this son to his far-off mother, still unaware what she has lost. Long will she sit by the door of her wretched hut and gaze out into the far north. Her darling son, her supporter, her breadwinner, will not come. Among the scenes of action, the vivid depictions of ancient cities, and the ethnographic realism of the peoples of Central Asia, Vasili Vereshchagin's Forgotten stopped an emperor in his tracks. The simple rendition of a single body, a dry plain, and an array of wheeling birds triggered a visceral response that went far beyond what was pictured. For the emperor, it was an insult and a reproach, a snapshot that captured, for those willing to pay attention, the callousness of the army's leaders towards the ordinary soldier. Authoritarian leaders everywhere are sensitive to this criticism, especially because more often than not, it is true. In this case, the emperor's immediate reaction was to deny and then to censor. Intimidated and fearful, Vereshchagin destroyed his painting. But not before fellow artists had seen it and felt it. Vereshchagin's simple image impelled modest Mussorgsky and Vsevolod Garshin to respond. Where the emperor saw an indictment of his army, and by extension, a rebuke to his ambition, Mussorgsky and Garshin saw a reminder that all wars tear the fabric of human love and care. They often do so with such violence and scale that they can numb our sensibilities. And when those wars take place far away, we can more easily turn away. One function of art is to help audiences imagine the interconnections in the world, even when it is more comfortable to ignore them. This revelatory and revolutionary dimension of art is why it attracts suspicion and fear from emperors, kings, and dictators. And at the same time, it unites artists across time and space as they borrow and exchange ideas and pass them forward. Every artist knows their work may be condemned as obscure or offensive, as transgressive or as treasonous. And at times, faced with such responses, they may lose hope, as Vereshchagin did when he burned the canvas of Forgotten. But ideas cannot be destroyed so easily, even at the command of the emperor. Vereshchagin came to realize this as he found himself returning to that painting's core message and recreating it. Mussorgsky and Garshin knew it instinctively and were moved to rework and broadcast the message of Vereshchagin's painting in song, poetry and prose, even when the image itself was outlawed by the state. And a century later, activist Stanislav Karmackich stood in the same tradition when he held up the apotheosis of war as homage to the deep roots of anti-war activism in Russia. In exhibition catalogues, Vereshchagin dedicated this picture to all great conquerors past, present, and to come.